So unfortunately, we're back with Project Diesel Daily, and do you remember this moment? And I'm sure the astute of you will notice that glob. Frankly, I don't know what that is. We have this globular stuff coming out of the coolant slowly, which is a bummer. I mean, that's the coolant. It's not all oiled up. I have no evidence of any sort of oil leaking into the coolant except for this. And it's been slowly coming out of there and whatever. So I'm going to hope that that is just maybe the grease that came out of the old water pump bearing. Well, that was being optimistic. Unfortunately, we have oil in the coolant. And I think it's because of the oil cooler, which these OM642s have an oil cooler buried in the valley of the V, like buried. Everything has to come off. All the stuff I was avoiding when I was repairing the issue with the swirl flaps, using the resistor, all that stuff's coming off. Apparently it's a common flaw in these. It's not one I knew about. It's like really frustrating, but hopefully that's what it is and not something worse, like a head gasket or something. But let me show you what we got going on, because it's a bit of a bummer. I've driven it about 1,000 miles. We went up to Pittsburgh for a snowmobile trip, and it was flawless. It ran great. I've since put the cylinder 5 glow plug in, just dangling there, and that made the check engine lights go away. I also had to do cylinder, I think I did 1, 3, and 5. Yeah, cylinder 1, 3, and 5. All needed glow plugs. So I have no check engine lights, but now I have oil in the coolant. So let me show you what that's all about. So also, I'm sure a lot of you noticed we're in a bit of a different venue. This is my basement. You've seen the chainsaw sharpening here before and so on. Dad and Danny had projects going on at his shop, and I think this is going to take me quite a while, so I think it's only fair that I do it here. Everything comes off. Literally everything. Even the turbo. However, so if we check it out, down in here, I noticed it looked kind of black and gross. Look at that. That is no go. So clearly, lots of oil getting in there. Give it a smell. Kind of smells like coolant. But very disappointing. So I also made sure that this does not have a shared transmission cooler / radiator combo. The radiator is a separate piece than the transmission cooler. So it's definitely engine oil getting in there. And the only thing that I can hope for is that it is that oil cooler, which is buried. And I'll show you guys in a photo momentarily just why that should be what the issue is. It's a really, really stupid design. I'm incredibly disappointed with both its location and the design of the actual part, because not that these O-rings, as far as I'm concerned, the O-rings are not the worst part of the design. It's a common fail point with these OM642s. I'm not going to film the video of me doing the repair because it's been filmed a bunch of times. But I am going to rant a little bit about what it's like. And the cooler has one inlet and outlet going lengthwise, and then parallel to that there's an inlet and outlet, and there's an O-ring for the coolant side and an O-ring for the oil side. Those O-rings, which are cast over metal, the rubber is cast over metal, are connected by a metal strip. So when either one of these O-rings fails, it gives it a perfect pathway, both in the aluminum casting of the cooler and, along the gasket itself into the other side. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. So one more lose. I think we're up to what, 5 massive fails for the Mercedes engineers. 1 with packaging, 2 with swirl flaps, 3 with the oil cooler, what else was really annoying with this? I can't remember. Oh, 4 with connectors. And what I mean by that is, for example, 4 different styles of connectors in the turbo plumbing, and e-Torx, hex, regular Torx, bolts and nuts. So that's 4. And I can't remember what 5 was. But I'm sure there's something else that's going to disappoint me. The bummer of the whole situation isn't that it needs to be fixed. The bummer of the situation is that I actually really like the thing. And it drives amazing. So for all of its fail points, it's a really nice engine to sit behind the wheel of. Lots and lots of power. It's quiet. It's smooth. So it's really quite nice to own when it's working. So I'm told, both through my research and I talked to a couple of Sprinter guys, that when you do the cooler, that and the swirl flaps are really the only 2 major fails on these engines as far as reliability issues. I remember what 5 was. Rubber parts. So that's partially cooler design, but also talking about the O-rings. And what I mean by rubber parts is all of the rubber parts, including the little red gaskets, on the inside of these pieces, that it's like almost a silicone rubber. It's garbage. It hardens up over time. And those are throughout the entire engine, all sorts of O-rings and stuff, which is what we're going to be replacing on the oil cooler. So there you go. There's 5 things that the engineers failed on. Long story short, this engine, this Jeep, I'm actually pretty happy with it. I just don't want to do this. It's going to take so long. Everything comes off. So let me just do a quick rundown. Radiator hose. So coolant system gets drained. Air box comes out. Not the air box per se, but air piping. Fuel filter is down in here, buried in the middle. So the entire fuel system is coming off. So that means fuel filter, rubber hoses, hard metal fuel lines, fuel rails, fuel injector lines, fuel injector return lines, glow plugs. The entire harness has to come out. The turbo itself has to come out, so all of the turbo plumbing, of course. The swirl flap motor, which is down in there. Underneath the turbo and fuel filter, once I get low enough in the V, there's an EGR cooler. That's going to come out, but with both intake manifolds. So 2 intake manifolds, 1 for each bank. Both of those have to come out of the way. And then we'll have access to our cooler. And I'm going to put that picture on the screen now so you guys know what that looks like. So I'm annoyed, but I'm going to fix it because I like it. I'm 50-50 right now on if I'm going to fix it right here or if I'm going to pay somebody to fix it, just because I don't want to. I could fix it. I have the skill set to do so. It's actually not that hard. It just requires some organization and patience because so much has to come off. But it's not like I'm rebuilding an engine here or doing something complex. It's more like a puzzle. So really any DIY mechanic could do this job if they're patient enough. And that's what I found in my research and why I'm not going to film this. There's tons of videos of this job being done both in Europe and the US. There's time lapses, there's tutorials. It's all out there. OM642 oil cooler seals. So I know how to do it. I just don't want to. And it's probably more of a principle thing that I don't want to do it. I'm upset that I have to. But what are we going to do? I mean, I like the thing. It owes me nothing. It's been a killer deal. Even after this annoyance, it'll be a killer deal. Even if I pay somebody to fix it, it'll still be a killer deal for how much I own this Jeep for. So that's where we're at with Diesel Daily. I gotta reiterate, guys, this thing drove so nice on the trip to Pittsburgh. I had heated seats. I was comfortable. It was quiet. We had a conversation. My friend Bela and I were able to, just talk in a very low tone while cruising at 75 up the highway. It's awesome. It's comfortable on the bumps. I don't know if anybody's familiar with northern New Hampshire at this time of year, but man, the roads are bumpy and we weren't getting jostled around. It's just smooth. The front independent suspension, awesome. 4Runner has that too, but the 4Runner rides like it's on rails. It's very stiff. This is actually very cushy, maybe a little bit too much. I don't care. I like cushy. So long story short, again, this is annoying. Is it the end of the world? No. Is it worth fixing? Absolutely. And once this is fixed, I'm told that these O-rings last at least another 50 or 60,000 miles minimum. These ones went, 130,000 miles. These are the factory ones. I guarantee it when I get in there, they're going to be the original O-rings. So, anyway, it's part of what we have to deal with for modern emissions compliant diesels. The EGR, the oil cooler, PCV, diesel particulate filter in the exhaust are things that don't need to exist if we didn't have to deal with the soot emissions from diesels. And again, I've said this, I really think the problem is the fuel, not the engines. We shouldn't be running petroleum diesel fuel. It's really gross. You can create way less particulate matter with nice biodiesel blends, but the governments and, frankly, the lobbyists are making sure that doesn't happen. Very much so in the US and also all over the world. Biodiesel is not our primary source of diesel fuel, and that's a bummer. So anyway, that's a big, long rant. But I think it's something you guys would want to hear, the update on Diesel Daily. What I will film is after it's repaired, we're going to do a lift kit. I have a set of Wrangler wheels, which are going to have some bigger tires. And I really think this thing's going to have a nice new stance to it that makes it look a little more masculine, a little more aggressive, I guess, because it's kind of a grocery getter right now. But underneath the strength of these chassis, some of the off-roading I've been watching them do online, and people have documented this really well. It's a good Jeep. They were made well. They got a bad rap. I didn't respect these chassis at all, and now I do. So we'll film that process, and then we'll take it out on the trails. So thanks again, everybody, for watching. I hope you're liking what we're doing with Highlandshire. I'm trying to make interesting content out of, things that I need to do around the properties and in my life. If anybody has suggestions, I'm always open to hear them. Feel free to comment below if you like what we're doing. If there's something you don't like, I'll try and work on that. All right, guys, it's a new day, and I'm pretty sure we're going to tear into this oil cooler right now in Diesel Daily. So I've just been spending the morning trying to get myself organized because, frankly, I'm going into this a little anxious. There are just so many pieces that I need to keep track of. And I've done big jobs like this before, but it's frustrating with this engine. Literally every fastener you take out is a different length or a different thread or different whatever. I mean, nothing is standard at all. Every component has a unique function, and thus the fasteners only fit in one spot, which you would think is a good thing. It is with electrical connectors. It's not with screws. It makes it really hard to put stuff back where it belongs. So just made sure that I had enough workbench to get myself organized. We're going to be laying out a lot of parts here. I probably need a little more, actually. But yeah, we'll move some more stuff. Anyway, long story short, I'm going to get into this. I might time-lapse part of it. But like I said in the last little clip from, I think it was yesterday that I filmed when I wasn't really sure if I was going to do this or not. There are so many videos of this being done already out there. OM642 oil sealer. OM642 oil cooler seal replacement. That's what you have to search. And you'll find hundreds of people who've done this. Various types of time lapses, etc. So it's not hugely interesting, but I will, when I get pieces off, show you the fail and kind of explain why I think this is a terrible design. My understanding is Mercedes made this engine pretty much unchanged until now, 2021, 2022. I don't know if they're still making it for 22 models. I'm not sure, but it still has this oil cooler in it. So anyway, we're going to get into it. It's nice and warm down here. I'm going to get some music on and just kind of tear in. So on we go. Wish me luck. Okay, I have an update on getting to the oil cooler in this thing. The turbo is still stuck in place by 2 more bolts. It's a little bracket on the rear. It's just like a vibration dampener or something. And it is impossible to get to. the firewall on this Jeep overhangs, which doesn't happen in like the Mercedes sedans, and it barely happens in the Sprinter. In this, it's a big overhang. So you see how here's the firewall and the turbo's behind it quite a bit. Now, we were able to get on the bolts. That's not the issue. The issue is the bolts won't move. I can only fit a 3/8 ratchet down in there, which I actually custom bent my ratchet. And this is the angle I'm going from. So I'm up here on the handle, which is the firewall, and I'm going down behind the turbo up into these bolts. And it's just wild. Now, can't get a torch in there. I got an induction heater on Amazon and I bent the tabs of it. I also have a inspection mirror, and I mean I can see it no problem. I just need to get an extension cord. I could probably use this. I'm not sure. We'll try it. And I have my ratchet ready to go. I already cut myself just a little, but that's okay. Let that harden up. I'm gonna try and film me heating this through the mirror. We'll see what you guys see. So first of all, let's plug this in to the light. All right, it's gonna be loud because the fan on the induction heater runs regardless of if I'm pushing the button. But let me see if I can show you guys what we're talking about here. So there's the heater, and right on the other side of it is the bolt. Let me try and zoom in. Yeah, okay, so there we go. You can see that I was able to bend the coil of the heater so it goes right up around those bolts. Now I'm going to try and get this mirror set and hold you guys with the same hand. Pushing the button. Don't see any smoke or anything. Well, now I do. Okay. Let's see if that got hot. So the problem we had was the dipstick tube got hot, because it must have been in between the two coils here. So let's see if I can't get that down there again. All right, guys, so I wasn't really making any progress with the heat. So sometimes you need to upgrade tools. Kind of wanted one of these for a while. This is a Milwaukee Fuel right angle impact 3/8 drive. So it's very thin compared to, say, my DeWalt 3/8 driver drill. So this is going to fit down in there, and hopefully it'll have enough power to break those things loose with, with the impact, the shaking. So let me show you what it does. So pretty cool, very powerful, and let's see if we can't get it off. All right. Let's take a peek here. Sneak it down in. That's doable. Oh. Without setting it off.
How did I do this before? Don't tell me just because of the extra battery, it's not gonna fit. Oh man, I thought we had it. I didn't have the battery in it. Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, you're kidding me.
So just the extra inch of battery is messing me up right there. Can't get it to fit. There's that. Go down this way. Maybe. Well, so still a no-go for a couple of reasons. One, with the battery on, it's just a little bit too long. And two, with the bypass pipe See it there? That black bypass pipe takes up a bunch of wiggle room that I have in that space. And it's not like it's, as far as I can tell, the pipe is not easy to move. I don't even know where it's connected to over here. So next steps, I need to find my swivel, which fell down, because it also has my short E12 E-Torx on there. And I'm wondering if with the swivel and the short one instead of this one, maybe we'll have a chance. The struggle, guys, but guess what? They're out. I got 2 of them. I'm going to try and show you where the impact is right now. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. What I had to do was remove the transmission dipstick, and I went in right here, and you see the trigger on the impact down there. There you go, you see it lit up, right? So I would lay across the top of the engine, and I would reach this hand down here to do the trigger. And you can see there's the head of the impact gun. So I was able to spin that, you know, this way, so that was facing up, and I was able to get onto the bolts and hit the trigger. And my God, that thing took them out like they weren't even there. It's crazy how well impacts work when things are heated or whatever it may be. Because the thing is with an impact is it shakes, and that's what breaks it loose. And then it spun out like butter. I took them out by hand. Danny and I had the extensions on. He was down below. That whole turbo was rocking. I mean, nothing would touch it. So right tool in the right moment. I had my swivel socket with my short E12. That didn't work because I couldn't get it lined up. So I had my long E12 without the swivel socket. And I was able to get that lined up perfectly, smack the impact, and out they came. So I'm about to lift this turbo out, I think. Which is 3 days waiting to do this. Here she comes. Yes, that is a turbo. Haha. Holy crap. So, there it is. Things we struggled with here. These were just beat up. So as soon as we got the nut out to here, it then twisted and wanted to cross thread on these. So I'm going to replace those studs. So let me try and illustrate this for you guys. The way we look at the turbo in the vehicle is like that, yes? So now the camera is going to be from the firewall. This is the way the turbo sits from the firewall, yes? So we have exhaust coming out of the turbo. There's a big downpipe here. So we had to remove this elbow and the clamp on the downpipe, and that goes out the tailpipe, yes? Manifold comes out this way, inlet. Manifold comes out this way, inlet. And this is the EGR tube. The hidden bolts are these ones right there. And you can see, you know, we're right into hot cast iron, so they were welded in there with heat. And these are angled down, probably almost 45 degrees. If everything else is considered flush, these are angled down towards the top of the transmission. But with that correct tool in there, we finally made it happen. And now you can probably see where the tool was. Let me turn my light on. So this bracket right here is where the bolts were. And I had the tool coming up aimed at those bolts, and we were able to make it happen. So well worth the $300 whatever dollars. Yeah, because it was the only tool that could do the job. So what's next? We have to take off this harness, this big black harness, and then we'll be able to fold all the fuel lines out of the way, and then the 2 exhaust manifolds. But that's a project for another day. So that was a long-awaited success. Bree watched me struggle over and over again. It's taco time. Well-earned tacos. Clean out my hands. And off we go. Diesel Daily, back on the road soon. All right, we're back. We're finally gonna get these manifolds off. Got the turbo off 2 nights ago. We had plans yesterday. I worked, and plans in the evening, so we didn't make any progress in the evening yesterday. But turbo's off, as you saw. There it is on the floor. Turbo there. And it's time to finally get to this cooler. So next thing, manifolds 1 and 2 come off, and harness comes out, swirl motor, turbo pedestal. I think that's it, and then we'll have access to the cooler. I'm super excited. That's a long time coming. Here we go. Let's do it. All right, guys, we're in. Look at that mess. So the only 2 things I didn't fully remove were this fuel harness, which has return lines and stuff on it. Here's the other piece. So those go to the filter. I was able to sneak it out. I might have to take that off to put it back together, though, because it was pretty hard to get out. And I didn't remove this complete harness here from the passenger side bank, because there was a couple zip ties to cut for those injector lines right there. There's one. And I just didn't see the need. I might still do that just for ease of putting that manifold back down in there, because it's definitely going to be difficult. Did anything break? I don't think so. We got all of our glow plugs intact. Looks like that. Yep, that harness actually fell back onto the plug. On this side, you can see the busted glow plug that we had talked about. Somebody has done damage in there, so that's not going to get repaired. That's just going to stay as it is. It's full of coolant right now, but yeah, that's unacceptable, so oh well. And here is our cooler, surrounded by a whole bunch of oak whirligigs. Seeds, for you, those of you who don't know what a whirligig is, they come off an oak tree. Probably with some mouse stuff in there at some point is why that happened. Nice warm spot for mice. They brought the seeds in to eat them. Anyway, we'll vacuum this out with the shop vac and then pull that oil cooler out. Okay, so after about an hour of cleaning, this is the result. So we have the cooler fully exposed. All of the Torx screws that hold it in are clean. There's a groove all the way around it, which in my case was totally filled with like an oily sand. I think this lived on dirt roads up in Maine. I've definitely taken it on dirt roads. So there was just a lot of sandy junk down there, and we really want this to be clean. So you can see where I've used brake clean, it's taken the oil off of the walls of the engine. Because when we take this cooler up, we're going to be direct down into the oil. And we just want to make sure we're not getting contaminants down in there. So anyway, we're about to pop it out and take a look at those old seals. On we go. With a 1/4 adapter all the way down to my Torx bit, and we're just going to be really gentle. Came right out. Came right out. Now I think if you were going to reuse the cooler, you might want to do this in like a crisscross pattern, but I'm not. I got a new cooler just because it wasn't expensive, and I thought, considering that I have contamination where most people just get a leak, it seemed wise to me to try and make sure that the cooler wasn't actually the issue. Could just be the O-rings. I'm hoping that it's obvious that they're contaminating between the 2 sides, but anyway, I got a new cooler, so I'm not worried about a crisscross pattern for warpage. Perfect. So now, should be able to just lift this out of here. There will be some, I need my towels at the ready. All right, so I got lots of towels ready to go. So here goes nothing. Yep, pretty easy. I'm gonna come out on this side of my harness. Straight up without tilting too much. All right. Well, that was dumb. Dropped all my bolts, but as long as I count them, they're all the same. Let me grab you guys. There it is. We obviously had a massive leak on this one here. These ones didn't look like they were really leaking, but we had contamination for sure. You can see where it's been mixing right there. So that's the issue. That's how we got oil in the coolant. That big mess down there. So that's good news as far as I'm concerned. Time to clean this up. I'll show you guys exactly why these gaskets are no good in a second. I got this surfaces pretty cleaned up. The driver's side of the vehicle, this side here, is oil. The passenger side of the vehicle, that side there, is coolant. When I lifted it up, we had a ton of oil on that coolant side. And same thing, the cooler had a ton of oil on the wrong side. So you know for sure it was mixing. I'm positive this was our problem. So what's wrong with these is these seals harden over time. They're hard as a rock. And in this case, coolant wasn't bypassing this way. The reason that happens is these seals, these ones are actually pretty soft, but they are compressed pretty crooked and just not great. So that's what causes all of this mess. It's just these stupid little seals. Ah, see this one, that's the issue. You see oil going directly into the coolant side underneath the seal. That's what I thought it was. So we know 100% that's our problem. This is how it's supposed to be. No cross-contamination. This is how it was, cross-contamination. Never mind the fact that it was leaking all around here and into the valley of the engine. So this is a horrible design. The idea that these two are connected and that they've machined a perfect, travel path for the two things that are not supposed to mix, that's just bad design. I'm not even going to call it bad engineering. That's bad designs. Like, who looked at this and thought this made any sense? This should be 4 individual O-rings. If they were concerned about the O-rings moving, you could put these machine parts, this way and this way, for example, so the O-ring would be tight, but not touching each other. It's just a horrible, horrible design. So anyway, that cooler's probably okay. But like I said, it was so inexpensive to get another one. I'm just going to go with that route. Have a brand new part. Since this was so difficult, I don't want to be doing it again anytime soon. So I have an appointment to get off to now. I'm letting those rags, there's some pretty deep wells in the casting of the block that are full of oil and coolant combination. So I'm letting those rags soak that up. And when we get back, we'll put it all together. On we go. All right, it's fully clean. Ready for the new part. I was really cautious to make sure those seats are clean. So the new one is here with the new seals. And I'm told we take it out, put the seals in, push them down nice and firm, and then stick it in. So the little nubs are the only thing that hold it down in there. Definitely the same on both sides. So just stick them in. You kind of got to work it down with your fingernail to make sure that it's fully seated and not popping back up. They do like to pop back up. It's a really dumb design, guys. But if we zoom, bring you like so, you can see how they stick up, and that's your seal. And look, see, that one's already looking kind of, yeah, see, it's not where I want it. Now granted, it's going to be pushed down by the bolts, but I wish they would. I'm just not impressed. I'm not impressed. But there's the new ones, and there's a clean spot. We'll get that put in. Well, I just opened the rest of the kit that I ordered, and the seal kit, which came separately from the cooler, came with the seals. These are made by L-Ring, and now I have a dilemma. Which ones do I think are better? These with the little indents from the casting, I've seen in a lot of videos. I think these are actually made directly by Vitron, perhaps, but they didn't come in a bag. They just came with the old cooler. And so these L-Ring ones came in the kit with all the other gaskets and stuff. And honestly, I'm not sure which ones to use. The thing is, our leak was this way between the two sides. And the L-Ring definitely seems to have a nicer bit of rubber for that section right there. It seems thicker than these. I don't know if that matters, but I mean, I really don't know which one is better. So that's kind of a bummer. I guess I'm gonna go with the ones that came with this. And these will be spares if I ever have to do this again. At least now we know how to do it, but anyway. That's really annoying that I have to choose. I'm really not sure which ones I like better. But anyway, I'm gonna go with these because they came with it, and I think I've seen more of these in videos of other people doing this. So I'll stick that one back in there, and on we go. Well, there it is, guys. All tucked in, nice and pretty. And now time for the great reassembly. That's what happens next. Before the great reassembly, though, we have the great cleaning. That is filthy. And we have one more stud to get out. See that stud? Right there in the turbo flange. So, time to heat that up, get the stud extractor, and see if we can't get it to pop. So one last observation, and I guess a tiny bit of rant about this. So I cleaned this up, and you can 100% see the burn marks of oil all around, leaking out of this seal, and it was going across into the coolant side. Now, most of these fail in a way that the oil escapes outside of the cooler and leaks down the engine. Mine wasn't doing that. I was getting contamination. So I haven't seen too many people state that. So I'm going to make it clear right now. OM642 oil cooler seals can cause contamination between the two ports. And actually, these don't, to the naked eye, they don't look bad. They're actually still kind of springy. They're not hard like if people report that they get really hard. These are not hard. Honestly, they just don't seem that bad. So maybe it has to do with the fact that these are only held in by like less than 10 foot-pounds. There's not a lot of squish in the torque. Regardless, dumb design with the crossover, and that's one more way that they can fail, aside from leaking out. The good news is I am 100% confident we do not have a head gasket issue. It was definitely that. No question in my mind. So we can put this engine back together confidently and know that it's still going to work. So next steps are to start that process. I got that stud out. I just use a torch and a cheap stud extractor. For those of you who don't know what these are, it's basically just a drill bit chuck, essentially, with some pointy bits. You tighten it down, and you know, when you're reversing, this tightens, and it just gets tighter and tighter on the stud until the whole unit spins out and your stud comes out with it. I had the stud glowing red hot with just a map gas torch before that. So that's out. I couldn't film it. I had too many hands doing stuff, and it wasn't very interesting in the end of the day anyway. Well, okay guys, we were cruising along on reassembly. The manifolds are back in. You can see there's one side, there's the other side, crossover pipe, and they're all in place. The turbo pedestal is back in, but disaster struck. I remembered that these were both bent from taking them off, and when I tried to take this one out, I used heat and my stud extractor, and I was just a little bit too zealous, and disaster. So that's totally flush, if not below. So we're gonna have to head over to Dad's, use his nice quality welder, and weld a nut to that to see if we can't get it to spin out. These two, I'm just gonna be a little more careful. I think I'll be fine with getting those out. We're gonna bring the stud extractor. I probably shouldn't have used it on the impact. That's what broke it. That was dumb. So this time I'm gonna tighten it and then rock it back and forth, just with the big adjustable for these two. But we gotta head over there and see if we can't get that one out. The kit came with copper-coated bolts instead, which hopefully, if this ever has to be done again, these will come right out. I do have some high-temp copper anti-seize we'll be using as well. Same thing for the collectors. You know, these 6 here, those are all gonna be copper moving forward. But, oops, let's go fix our mistake. Well, you can't win them all, and sometimes you have to admit defeat, admit probably mistakes were made, whatever. So here's the story with this turbo. The kit comes with bolts to replace these studs, because studs are annoying. They're copper-coated bolts, so theoretically they'd come out of here next time you have to do anything. Great. This stud was bent from removal. Tried to remove it the other day, it broke. Tried to remove it today using all the tricks in my catalog. We welded nuts to it, we tried drilling it, and using extractors. We did everything, and it just was not coming, and we're starting to touch the housing. And there was just no winning, and I did something I'm not happy about, but it'll keep the exhaust from leaking, and it's good enough for now. The reality is I'm probably going to need a new housing or to take this to a machine shop if I ever want it to be correct. But we had to weld the stud on, and I'm really not happy about it. I didn't film the process. I struggled for about 2.5 hours trying to get the old one out. And so I'm not even going to bother trying to take these out. I ran my dye down on them to clean up the threads. They're good. I can put nuts back on them, and that's just how we're going to do that, because I'm really not happy with this outcome. However, even though it's not metric, it's a piece of crap, you know, whatever, it's a stud, and these two will be nice and tight. This one will be mostly tight, and, you know, this is just exhaust. This isn't compressor. This isn't something that we need to worry too much about. We just don't want it leaking because of smells in the cabin. So it'll be good enough. Really upsetting, disappointing, I guess, but it is what it is. Now we can finally go reassemble this thing. But sometimes, guys, like I said, you can't win them all, and this one beat me. But we're going to get the Jeep reassembled and back on the road regardless. On we go. Well, guys, it's a beautiful day, and the mess I just made will give you a hint to the status. The Jeep runs. But it's March, and getting out of the basement was a little bit of an oopsie. So had to cut and run and go that way because this wasn't happening. We were sliding like crazy, but we got out without too much mess. Nothing a little raking can't fix. I'm also happy to report that it runs, and when I broke over that frozen snowbank over there, the bumper that's been through so much in its poor life stayed on. So that's good. I don't think anything's leaking. I don't really know. Actually, no, I got a big leak right there. And I wonder what it's from. Hold on, it could just be excess leakage. Make sure. So this drippage I'm seeing is clearly, it looks like coolant, and it looks like a lot of it. So that's nerve-wracking. But, I mean, I torqued down that cooler correctly. I know I did. So, where is it coming from? Well, guys, we're back in the shop. I'll tell you what, man. This job is kicking the shit out of me. All back together. All is great. Everything went okay. Like, I didn't have too many issues with reassembly. And I did everything down here. I bled the coolant system. Tried to take it out in the mud like you saw. It didn't work. Took it out in the morning when the garage had frozen over. Got up to drive it to work, and it was leaking. The coolant leak is somewhere near the EGR. Now, I'm hoping it's the heater hose pipe. There's two coolant lines going into the EGR valve itself. Those don't appear to be leaking. The heater hose pipe doesn't appear to be leaking, but the drip is really hard to find. I'm doing it with a mirror. I got turbos in the way. I just got junk everywhere in this engine. It's just so hard to work on. There's a really good chance the turbo has to come off just so I can diagnose this. I just can't see it with my mirror. I can't see the source of the drip. It seems to move. Unfortunately, I got it going in two different spots. One time it's falling on the exhaust manifold. One time it's falling on the EGR tube from the exhaust up to the intake. I just don't know where it is. I'm pretty confident I installed the manifolds correctly. You know, I've read horror stories about the metal gaskets moving. But, I mean, they're held in with bolts. All the bolts threaded in without catching any gaskets. It was super easy. I torqued everything. I just don't know. So, it's pretty disappointing. And I'm really not excited about having to take the turbo off again. And if I determine it is the manifold, then everything else has to come off again. Now, I can get the turbo out of this without taking everything out of the valley. So, I'm going to do that. But first, I have to go to work, and I'm going to come back with a pressure tester, and I hope when I pressurize the coolant system, it'll create like a squirt instead of a drip, and I can determine exactly where the leak's coming from. It probably won't, which means turbo's coming off, and then I'm going to have to start the vehicle with open exhaust in my face, but at least I'll be able to put my head back there and see where the leak's coming from. And I really hope it's that hose. I really do, but if the manifolds have to come off, they have to come off. I mean, sometimes you get beaten. I got beaten with the turbo stud, and in general, this job is kicking the shit out of me. So you don't win them all, but we're going to get it fixed because that's what you do. You don't give up. So anyway, I'm off to work, and next time you see me, pressure test. Good news, everybody. We found the leak. We got our pressure tester. Ta-da! Okay, that's enough. See it? So hopefully I can just reposition that clamp. Thanks for being my pumper, Bree. Yeah, I'm in a good mood again. Okay, push the button. So we'll reposition that, then we'll pump it again. Fingers crossed. No more leaky.
Ready?
Yep. So we've got a new clamp on there. Let's see if we'll hold pressure. What's it at on the gauge?
10.
What's 10 look like? Yeah, if you could bring it up a little higher, that'd be good. But I think we're solved. Just hold it there, and I'll look for a slow drip.
It's between 10 and 15.
And it's not going down, right?
No.
I mean, it's okay if it leaks very, very slowly. That wouldn't surprise me. The pressure, but I think we got it, guys. Woo! I think we got it, Bree. Do we have it?
Hopefully.
Here's the problem. Well, that's not round. That's the spring clamp that came off. So I think we might be lucky. All right, I took out this EGR sensor. I'm gonna put that back in just so I don't get exhaust fumes coming up. That's the only thing mechanical I took off. I did take off some bracketry and stuff to fit my mirrors back there, but then we'll stick the butt out the door and see if we have a leak while it's running. On we go. All right. Are we leak free? I'm gonna let it run for at least a minute or two minimum, even though letting a lot of cold air in right now. It's starting to snow again. But I'll turn you guys back on after it's been a minute or two and make sure we got no leaks. Oh, fingers crossed, because I was getting real nervous. Guess what, guys? I'm pretty confident it's not leaking. See some old coolant starting to burn off. But nothing like the waterfall we had before. So finally, knock on something, knock on aluminum, this might be fixed. So the only thing I have left to do is to source some resistor that'll go in that injector plug, because that's not particularly safe. Or I'm gonna have to like sheathe that, create like a custom tube for the threads. That might be an easy solution, I don't know. And then I have to put the turbo heat shield back on and the engine cover bracket. And those are right there on the floor. And one more harness support, which goes right here on this harness. And it's back together. Oh, that's awesome, guys. You can see, it was quite a leak, even though that little thing, and no matter what I did, I could not see it coming from that hose. But it just shows why spring clamps are only good when they're new. That thing is totally junk. Well, guess what, guys? I think it's solved, and it's back together, and it was something really minor. I was getting stressed about it because I could not see that leak. I mean, I knew it was over there. That line looked bone dry. I saw no drips coming from it. I could not trace it. And it was coming from the weirdest locations in the engine. But this is why you always find the proper tools to do a real test before you disassemble again. So I didn't have high hopes for the pressure tester, but man, this thing, it saved the day. It made it really obvious where the leak was coming from. New hose clamp, and we're good to go. So I was beaten this morning, and this evening, we're now winners. So I can't say how grateful I am to whatever powers there it be, because man, I was getting really down about this. So I hope it dries great tomorrow. We're gonna have to wait till the morning to pull it out. It's snowing right now, and it was warm all day, so I need those cold weather I need those cold overnight temperatures again to make sure the ground's frozen so I can drive up. And we'll drive it all day tomorrow, and fingers crossed, it's going to be great. We have a bunch of appointments. We're going to go to the vet for both dogs and Toby and Tucker. So, like always, guys, we're finally going to wrap this video up. It's a bunch of random clips, I know, from this project, but I'm going to squeeze it into one video. I think that's all that's due. And I hope you guys like watching, and hope you'll be with us next time. So, thanks so much for watching Highland Share. Bye.